everyone. Welcome to another Garden City Arts online program. Today we are painting a shark. Oh no! So keep in mind that today I'm going to walk you through how to do this. However, you can always put your own spin on it and add extra details to your painting. Now, if you purchased a kit from Garden City Arts, then you already have your colors pre-mixed and ready to go. All you need to do is lay them out in the order that you see them on the foam plate, okay? You also will have a piece of chalk in your kit and all the other things that you need. Now, brushes are one thing not included in the kits, and so make sure that you have a wash brush of some kind, a nice big square guy, maybe a shader brush, which basically is a smaller square guy, and then a round brush with a nice point on it, okay? So any size will do, we'll make it work, and if you're ready to go, we will start drawing. We don't even need our paint yet, so we'll set this to the side for now. Now, very first thing we need to do is draw our shark, and we use chalk to do that because it's easy to erase. So I'm going to put a dot close to the very top of my canvas, right in the middle, in between the halfway point in between left and right of the right side of my canvas. This is going to be for the tip of my shark's nose. It's the tallest part of my shark. So once I have that done, I'm going to make a nice big curvy line that comes all the way down and stops a few inches from the bottom. I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side and stop. Now, after I have that part finished, I'm going to put in another smaller kind of thick mountain. That's what it kind of reminds me of, a really wide mountain. And I'm going to do that exact same thing inside. So this is going to be the outside of the shark, and this is going to be the underbelly that is lighter gray. Then I'm going to draw a little mouth. So I have 2 points. Those are the corners of his mouth. And I'm going to connect those 2 points with a nice curvy line. And then I can basically create the bottom by doing a slightly smaller curvy line. Now remember, this is our sloppy copy, so you can always make it look a little bit nicer as you go. And the last thing that you're going to do is going to draw little teeny tiny eyes. And you want them to be about the same size, and you want them to be close to the top, kind of in the middle of your fat mountain. Next, we're going to draw the waves. Now, when we draw the waves, we basically make a bunch of curvy lines that look like bowls. They're all connected, so they create a continuous wave. Now, we don't want to do just one set of waves. I'm going to do two. And I'm going to come right here in between the dip in our wave, and I'm going to put a second set of waves all the way down, just like that. Now, I have everything drawn out, and I'm ready to move on. We can now start painting. We're going to start with our white and work our way around our palette from there. So the very first thing I'm going to do is grab my biggest brush, and I'm going to dip it in paint water and pat it dry. Now I'm going to grab just a little bit of paint. If your paint is dry like mine, then you can dip it in the paint water and mix it into the paint a little bit. That makes it a little bit easier to use. And we want slightly watered down paint for the clouds that we're going to put in behind our shark. Now, these clouds go behind our shark, but they don't go through him. So, let me show you what I mean. I'm going to have a big cloud that comes off the canvas. It's so big. And then I'm making these little kind of swirls with my brush. That gives it these little bobs and tumors that I think of when I think of a cloud. I'm going to come right up to my shark, but I'm not going to go through him. It just disappears behind him. We don't see it. Okay? I'm going to do the same thing over here, but I'm going to make it smaller, and I'm going to put it closer to the waves. So here's a nice big, I might have to grab some more paint, and here's a nice big cloud. I can also do some little touch-ups if I feel like my cloud is too light. You can grab some thicker paint. And if I want to, I could do another big cloud up here. Once you're done with your clouds, we'll move on. Now the cool thing about this video is that if I am going too fast for you, you can pause and catch up and then resume the video, or you can fast forward if I'm going too slow. So my clouds are all done. I'm going to swirl, tap, and dry my brush. So I swirl it in the paint water, tap it on the rim of the can, and pat it dry. And I have a clean, happy brush that's ready to move on. Now I'm going to continue using a big brush, but if you want to, if you're having trouble, use a smaller brush for this step. I'm going to grab my dark gray. It's kind of a blue gray. It's a shark gray. And I'm going to grab a little bit of water and mix it in. Notice how I'm mixing my water on the side of this big, huge pile of paint. I don't mix it in the center, I mix it in the side, okay? Now, I'm going to use the top edge of my brush, and I'm going to outline my shark. So this is the outline or the outer edge of my shark. I'm going to then outline where I want my dark gray to stop, because remember, that inside mountain is going to be the light gray for the underbelly of our shark. Now, once you have it outlined, you can do what I'm doing, which is you start right at that line, you use the side edge of your brush instead of the top, and you bring the paint inwards. Bring it in towards the center. Now remember, your shark can swim sideways for a little while. That's absolutely fine. So flip your painting whatever direction you need to in order to reach those lines and keep your painting nice and clean. So I'm staying inside my lines and I'm painting in my shark. Okay, now that I have my shark nice and dark gray on the outside, and remember, you can always do touch-ups if you feel like you're not completely happy with it, I can swirl, tap, and dry my brush, and I'm ready to move on. Now, if you used a whole bunch of dark gray like I did, and you want maybe a bigger belly on your shark, that's okay. Paint covers paint. So the next color I'm going to grab is the light gray. And I'm mixing a little bit of water into my light gray because it's dry. And then I can come in here and I can bring this line in if I want to. If I feel like I want a bigger belly on my shark. If you like it how it is, then you can keep it. So remember, we outline first and then we move on to filling it in with the side of the brush. So outline is the top edge of the brush. Filling in is the side of the brush. And be sure to not paint in his mouth. After all, sharks have big, huge mouths, and we don't want to paint it in with light gray. We want to put some nice teeth in there. And think about the bottom of your shark and how it comes up to the waves. We drew those waves in, so make sure you paint around them. We'll get those painted blue in a little bit. All right, so I have a really good start to my shark, but we have to move on. we are going to swirl, tap, and dry our brush. And now I'm done with my big brush for a while because we're gonna start getting a little bit more detailed, okay? So we have to think about a very important part of our shark, which is the teeth. If you want, you can use your chalk to draw little triangles. And we're only drawing those little triangles on the top of his mouth, so that big, huge mound. Don't worry about the bottom mound. We don't see teeth there. I mean, if you want to try putting teeth in, you can. He might look extra scary. Now we're going to use our tiniest little brush because that's really tiny area. And we're going to be very careful when we're putting in our teeth. So when we use our brush, the heavier we press on the brush, the bigger the line is. So if you want a teeny tiny line, then you have to press light as a feather. So I'm going to press really light, and I'm going to outline my teeth first. Now, the chalk is just a guide. So you can ignore it if you need to, and keep painting the teeth that you want. After you have the outline, you can outline the top edge of his teeth where they kind of connect to the rest of his shark body. And then we've got little teeny tiny triangles to paint in. Now these white teeth need to be shiny, is what I was trying to say. So we're going to do a second layer on our white teeth in just a little bit, but we have to let the first layer dry. So take your brush, swirl, tap, and dry, and let's move on to his eyes for a moment. Do you remember those two little semicircles that we put on the sides of his big head? Well, we're gonna use the black paint, and we're gonna paint in nice black shark eyes. Sharks have really dark black eyes. So I'm going to start by outlining. Remember, the lighter you press on your brush, the lighter your line will be. The heavier you press, the thicker that line will be, and the bigger the area that you will cover. So press really light. So don't push hard on your brush. Press light as a feather. If you have to, rest your hand on your table, and that helps you press light. It stops you from putting all of the weight on your paintbrush. Okay, now I got carried away. So we have two nice black eyes on our shark. We'll come back and do some more detail on those in just a little bit. But right now, while we have black on our paintbrush, let's go in and paint around those teeth. So we're gonna use our paintbrush and very lightly paint in little triangles or little lines around those big white teeth. By doing that, we're creating a little area that we can outline. I'm going to outline the bottom edge of his mouth as well. And then we can fill in all that area with dark black paint. So that's the open part of his mouth. That's the part of the shark you don't want to see. Okay, so I have dark eyes, I have a dark opening of my mouth. I'm going to let all of this dry, and we'll come back and do some more details in just a little bit. Now our shark is looking pretty good, but he needs a home. He needs some waves to swim in. So I'm going to start painting those waves. Before I can do that, let's flip our shark upside down. Make him look like he's swimming towards you. And we're going to paint the waves. We're going to start at the bottom edge of the wave and we'll work our way to the top edge. The bottom of the wave is going to be dark. These little points on our waves are going to be the lightest parts. So if you want, you can use your big brush or you can use your shader brush. It's up to you. If you have not painted a lot, I would use a smaller brush, okay? It'll be easier. Now I'm using this dark blue paint and I'm going to just paint a solid strip, okay? Remember, if your paint is dry and scratchy and it's hard to move, add some water to your paint. Water helps paint move. Okay, so I've painted the bottom part of the first set of waves. Now, we're going to paint the bottom part of the second set of waves. Do you see how I'm going around the tips of the waves? And I'm painting that dark blue. That's because this is the bottom part of the second set of waves. It's getting kind of tricky. Okay, once you have that dark blue, guess what we're gonna do? We're gonna flip the shark back so that he is right side up, so he's no longer swimming towards us, so we're not in danger anymore. And we're going to grab this beautiful kind of turquoise blue. And this blue, I didn't even wash off my brush. Did you see that? I just grabbed it. I'm gonna start right where I left off. And what you can do is you can move it back and forth. And look how it blends. It just starts to blend together and make a whole new color. Now I'm bringing that all the way up to the top. And then, at this point, you might want to switch to a smaller brush. After you get some of that aqua blue or turquoise blue in, you might want to switch to a smaller brush because we're going to add in some details. So I'm putting this in. Okay. All right. Now, with our round brush or with your shader brush, whichever you prefer, I like shader brushes personally, I'm going to continue putting in my turquoise blue. I'm going to cover up all parts of the waves. So, I should have light tops of the waves, and it should go into the dark blue. Now the reason I switched brushes is because these little teeny tiny points are hard to get to with a big huge brush. Make sure you mix some water into your paint if your paint is dry and scratchy like mine is. Now that we have the tops of our waves completely filled in, I'm going to grab some white, and that's for the crest of my wave. And I'm going to start right at the top of the wave, and you can blend it in as much as you want. If you want it blended, then what you need to do is you need to move that paint back and forth. Okay, sometimes you'll need to grab some more of the other color, the turquoise in our case, and you'll need to move it back up into the white, and you just basically move those two colors back and forth into each other until they have a nice blend. Okay. So I am getting a nice wave going on. Now I'm not blending a whole bunch because there's one last thing that I'm going to do to this wave after I get this done. But first, make sure you have white on all of the tips of your waves So every time it goes into a mountain or a peak, you need to put some white on it. Now, here's my secret weapon. I am going to go back in with my dark blue, and I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm gonna bring it up and blend it into the tops of my waves. By doing that, and going back and forth and maybe making some curvy lines, I'm gonna have a really nice transition from the dark to kind of the lighter parts of my waves. And remember, you can always grab some more of the turquoise if you feel like, oh, you lost too much of it. And you can put it in every once in a while. Make your waves kind of blue-green. All right, at this point, you just keep painting until you're happy with your waves. If you're already done and waiting for me to hurry up and move on, remember, you can always push fast forward on the play on your video. Right, if you are happy with your waves and you have cleaned out your brush, then you're ready to move on. We're gonna go back to our round brush and we're gonna start doing all of our details on our shark. Now, do you remember our teeth? They are far from sparkly white, so we need to grab some paint, maybe a little bit of water, and we need to maybe do a second coat or layer of paint on those teeth. Those teeth should be nice and dry. Now, some of you might have sparkly white teeth already and don't need a second layer. If that's the case, no problem. Just ignore what I'm doing. You don't need to do a second coat if you are happy with how bright your teeth are. Once your teeth are nice and white, let's move on to all the cool details. So, our black eyes look kind of off probably because eyes have a reflection light in them, okay? So we need to go in and we need to put a little tiny dot on the top part of each circle. And that dot can be kind of a dashed line, it could be just a simple dot, it can be anything you want. So now I have reflection light, and I bet your shark, just like my shark, looks a lot better. Next, we're going to start doing some more details. So I noticed that my gray isn't perfect right here. It gets a little bit too light. So I'm going to go back in and add another layer. Remember, you can always do that too. It is important to let acrylic paint dry before you try adding a second layer to cover up things, okay? So remember, if you're having a hard time getting that blue covered, just stop, let it dry, and come back to it in a moment. Once you are done, don't splash water on your canvas. Your shark will not appreciate it. We can do the very last step. We're already almost finished. This was a super easy but super fun painting, huh? So the last thing we're going to do is take some of our light gray with our round brush, and we're going to put on some highlights on our shark. Now, highlights are where the sun kind of reflects onto an object, okay, or shines onto an object. So you're not going to have highlights down low. They're going to be up high, where his nose is. Maybe one side of the shark gets a little bit more light than the other. Although if you want to put a little bit of a reflection, you could. Now, if you feel like that's too strong, you can always go back in with some of your dark gray, and you could blend those colors a little bit so that it's not quite so bright. You could even make your own color on your palette. Your palette is your foam plate right here that holds all of your paint. And could also use white and my light gray to do highlights on his belly. So just little tiny highlights right here. That just makes your shark look a little bit more interesting and dynamic, so he's not quite so flat. All right, look at this. We have this awesome, super scary shark. Now, if you have any chalk like I do that was left behind that you didn't paint over, no problem. Wait till your painting's dry, and you could take a clean damp brush or a clean damp paper towel, and you can erase that chalk away. The only thing left you have to do is to sign your awesome shark painting. So you could sign on the front, make sure the paint is dry. You could sign on the back of your canvas, or if you are a pro, you could sign in paint. All right, I hope you had fun, and I hope to see you again very soon. Bye.
Thank you for watching this online program. Please help Garden City Arts thank these generous sponsors.